Welcome to SN5's behind the scenes video. I just want to start off by saying if you haven't watched the original video on SN5, please go watch that. It'll be linked below. This video is just going to be behind the scenes of just random stuff that I filmed that I didn't want to add into that video. And I just got a bunch of random stuff, so I hope you enjoy. To certify this test stand, I'm going to bring it through around 2 test scenarios. And I'm going to be using this. This is my little apparatus for checking if this pressure transducer is calibrated. This pressure transducer is going to plug into here to this end, and then we're going to plug it into this air compressor and cross-reference and hook up the Arduino to it and be able to do that. The load cell, I'm just going to press down. I will also add a known mass onto the top of it and cross-reference it to what the Arduino's reading out. Take out the SD card, which is right here, and hopefully everything works out. I don't know if I mentioned this already, but this pressure transducer during the test will be up underneath in the motor. This is just the aft section of the motor. We just got the bulkhead screwed in, and then you see this tape is just to protect it from any scratches. That tape will come off once it's fully loaded and ready to be tested. You can look in here, you can see that's the inside of the casing. This is what I'll use to press down on just to make sure the load cell is working correctly. I will, like I said, I will also cross-reference it with a known weight to make sure it's calibrated. And then, yeah, that's pretty much what we got here. And then once I make sure the load cell is calibrated and everything, then I will hook up the pressure transducer in there, just making sure everything fits down here. I know it may seem stupid because it's probably gonna fit, but just to make sure, it's better to know that everything works than get out on test day and something doesn't fit and then the test needs to be postponed. And I also have the boss here looking over everything that I do, making sure everything's safe. So to get started, I will unclip the pressure transducer from its wire. These wires go back to the Arduino. This top wire is the pressure transducer. This bottom wire is the load cell. I'm gonna hook this up to this right here. This MPT thread's always hard to start off, and then there we go. We don't want to over tighten this, but we definitely want it pretty tight or else there's gonna be leaks, and that's not great. That honestly would not be good. Once this is all tightened, I do have clips, so I can unclip this from the back too, if I can get it without looking. Once it's unclipped, we can clip this into the pressure transducer. Okay, now that the SD card's in the Arduino, we got this cord which will pull up the Arduino on my computer so I'm able to read out the numbers live. I got the apparatus hooked up to the pressure transducer. All right, and I think we're good to start and do the first test. All right, I'm gonna prop you guys up right here. I'm going to plug in the Arduino first, giving it power, and then being able to read it live on my computer. And we're gonna pressurize the tank, and then we're gonna be pressing down on the load cell. Okay, now that we're all set, I'm gonna plug this in, which will start recording. We're now going to turn on the air compressor. It's gonna be loud for a second. All right, now that we're at pressure, this does leak, so the pressure transducer I would say is plus or minus maybe 15 PSI. It's very tough for me to calibrate it perfectly because my air compressor isn't great. I've been pressing down on this load cell, which is everything's looking good. So we're just gonna wait 3 minutes. I have an LED inside under the other board. This focuses. That will go off after 3 minutes. That's how long I have it set to record for. So I'll meet you guys back there at that time. All right, now that I ran that test, 500 grams is about 4.9 newtons. Right now we're reading a good 5 newtons, 4.99, which is definitely in the acceptable range. We're looking good. This test stand is certified. I'm gonna put everything back together, and we're just gonna do a fit test, and then the test stand is good to go for the test. All right, now to do this test fit, we're just going to thread the pressure transducer very lightly into the bulkhead. We're not gonna really torque it down too much right now because it doesn't matter. Now you're going to put the adapter on. You adjust this a little bit. that's a good shot. And then this will go down. And it will sit right. This also gets hot glued onto the load cell, so during the test, any vibrations don't move it or skew the numbers. Now this is the little bit of a difficult part. It's a little awkward. Let me get you guys closer in there. I need to lift up on this, find the clip, and here we go. Everything fits. It is a tight squeeze, but it works out. You can see really this cord is right butted up against there, but yeah, everything fits. All right, so we are a day out from the test. About almost 24 hours by now we're gonna be testing. One of the last checks I want to do out here, just to make sure my ignition cable is working in the conduit. It's been out all winter. This is the first test since winter, just to make sure it works. This post, there's another post far away that routes my ignition cable underground, so you'll see when I open this up. And yeah, let's get started. All right, here's what it looks open. We just got my cord, and then there'll be a little extender on here bringing it over to the actual test area. But right now, I'm not even gonna add the extender. I'm just gonna add on this cord. And this cord is what connects to the igniter. And now to test if this will work, I'm gonna go to the other one and plug this in. And if the light's on, it means it works. And to make sure, I'm gonna cross them so they're touching. Just like in the igniter, when I hook them up to the two leads on the igniter, they're touching at the filament on the top. So I'm just gonna do that for now. Now we're gonna go back to the other post and plug this one on. All right, here we are at the other post. You see there's a little bit of water in here. This seal kind of ripped a little bit. Definitely need to check that out, a little condensation in water. I see if there's water in this one, then the conduit goes underground and water can get to the other one. So now we're gonna plug it in and we're gonna see if the light stays solid. If it does, then we are all good. All right, we're looking good. This cable works, everything's working under there because I did need to splice the cable under in the conduit and stuff. So I just wanna make sure everything's working. It's way better just to make sure everything works before we actually test. So this simple stuff isn't an issue and holds the test. Definitely need to figure out this water issue. Yeah, everything's looking good and the test site is ready for the static fire. I also pressure washed all of this. It was pretty nasty from the winter. There's already some bird poop back on it. But yeah, we cleaned this all up so everything's looking good. And yeah, here's the test site. Oh, it's just a bit too high. Trimming because it just doesn't fit. It's so close to fitting, so
yeah,
really,
so far
we're really not trimming that much propellant. We're just trimming the outer casing. We're not even going to reweigh it because this is minimal amounts getting taken off, very little bits. All right, so the final touches is the label, the SN5 label. So right now I'm just measuring out where we'll be able to see it when it's in the test stand. Now it's not going to fit perfectly, but it'll fit pretty well. We're going to cut this down as close as we can. This is always a pain. Probably about like that. You can see the line, the label is a bit larger. But yeah, we're gonna press it down. S is towards the bulkhead. Let's do it. There we go, SN5. We got SN3 for reference. SN3 was a little bigger, but right now it's going off this Sharpie. Okay, maybe this doesn't come off as easy as I thought it did. Here we go. This is what SN5 looks like. Fully finished without the igniter. The igniter still needs to go on. All right, so the motor is completely done. We just got to put the igniter in. One of the last steps is to add this motor mount ring. This helps me mount it to the actual test stand. This is actually a part for the rocket that would help the motor slide in, but it also helps with test stand. So just to do this, I'm gonna redo that. So to attach this, all we got to do is just take out these bolts real quick, slide it on, and put the bolts back in. So now we're going to slide this ring on real quick. This will just sit at the bottom, but once it's on the test stand, we're going to have it up here. And then we just add the bolts back. All right, so we're currently 2 hours out from the launch. Currently getting these cables set up. And yeah, that's where we're at right now. Connecting the long wire. This will go back to where we're watching. 78. So let's bring out the motor. Still recording.
Wow.
Okay.
This is a construction zone.
Yeah. All right, so test stand's out here. We got the load cell and pressure transducer data going out there. We have battery to power it. Here's the ignition cable coming in. We're gonna hook up the ignition cable still, so the ignition cable goes to the igniter. The actual igniter where we're standing is still unplugged, so even if we plug this in, there's no current passing through the wire. Now we're pretty much set up out here. We just need to take off the tape before the test and set up all the cameras. All right, we are all ready. We got camera 1, camera 2, camera 3, camera 4, camera 5. We're gonna have the live stream set up right here, which we're gonna start right now, 30 minutes before. That's how we're looking. So we are pretty much good on everything except for just taking off the tape. Yeah, that's pretty hot. You can just keep your hands, I can just put my hand next to it and it's very hot. Everything looks good with the pressure transducer. Everything's looking great. Even this load cell adapter is so hot. We can get a temperature on that real quick. It's around 200 degrees. But yeah, we're looking really good. It's really hot out right now. It's about 80 something degrees. Quick behind the scenes. Quick preview. Here's the motor about an hour and a half after the test. I added this tape again to stop humidity or anything from getting in there. It's looking pretty good. See how it expanded up on the top, which is normal because these bolts will shift towards the end position. Same thing with down here. Everything's looking good though. A little bit of soot all over the test stand. But we're gonna take this out now. Now this is hot glued down to stop a little collar to stop the motor from moving. This is also hot glued to the thing, but it came off. So yeah, so first we gotta disconnect the pressure transducer. Try to crack this out. And here we have it. I hope you enjoyed this video, and please subscribe, comment, and like. And also, if you would like to support my work, you can buy me a cup of coffee. Thanks.